does one have to be in pain or have a medical issue to benefit from this process?
No, in fact, that's right. It's very interesting. We're welcoming people that just want more. They want to experience more. They want to have experience that they've never even had. Because many people have heard about higher states or these incredible deep states of peace and relaxation, or they just know that something's not right. They just can't put their finger on it, right? But they just realize, life, it's missing something, right? And it's just amazing to me that we finally have found the way that we can oscillate this system and pendulate and just move things, and that we can begin to open these doorways to these incredible experiences. Now, one thing that's very important for unified therapy is in medicine we have this thing called comorbid, right? Comorbid conditions are similar, are many conditions occurring at the same time. So it's very common for people to have, say, anxiety and migraine, or anxiety and digestive disorder, or anxiety and back pain, or anxiety and depression, or anxiety and restless leg syndrome, or no anxiety but restless leg syndrome, or restless leg and digestive disorder, or intimacy problems, or sexual problems. Because they're all controlled by the same system. That's the thing. The autonomic has its hand in everything, and that's why we're after it. If you change that, you'll change the world. You'll change. And now the science of it is that science is definitely recognized now. If you read about post-traumatic stress, autonomic is going to come up. You read about general stress disorder, autonomic is going to come up, right? If you're going to read about all those conditions, it's going to come up. It's just that no one had really had a way to re-regulate. Now, the reflex is designed to stimulate powerful righting or balancing reflex in the body. Did we ever think it existed? No one really understood, because it would happen individual. People would report about, oh my God, my body did a shake, and I started the lights, I saw colors, my feet started to jump, or like we were talking about the yoga thing. I mean, many of those happened, but people didn't know. Or I was doing some breathing, I was doing a lecture at Barry University there, and there was some social workers that had been involved in addiction, and he herself had been a patient. And she said, and I was talking about breath and how breath is a powerful autonomic re-regulator. It's one of the tools that can be used, right? One, not the tool, which people make mistakes, so they overly utilize these things. So, and she said, the breath work really turned me around. And when we did the breath work, I had such an experience that it helped me break my hold on addiction, right? So, we're realizing, sometimes you really got to do something to sort of jar the system to cause this re-regulation.
Those are the people who are depressed or maybe have experienced grief or loss in their life. Are those nervous systems more difficult to get this reflex going? Can you talk a little bit?
Well, there's very few people in my life that I've ever met that haven't had some grief or loss or something. And some of us have more adaptability, flexibility than others. Resiliency is often the term. Two people in identical situation, much more resilient, coming from no mother, no father, molestation, but it always seems to impact, and very early on is the big thing. So all of us are pretty much Alan Shore. I mentioned The Economist and so on. They're pretty much in agreement now that early stress response is what alters. So if you see a kid that has learning problems, and there's an illness, illnesses, learning, quality of life, that early stress really matters, right? If we can begin to change it, like a major part of unified therapy is joining with others in this mission to change that. Now, no one ever knew that maybe we could go back and rewire, right? Give people second chance, And I think that's for the first time now that we can do that. Now, some of it, sure, it's wired so hard and so strong that it would take nothing short of a miracle to get that person out of that. But we can look at the statistics, we can look at the science, and we can see, hey, that early exposure to stress really matters. And then, what are you going to do with it later on? And how are you going to learn to interact? what's happening Unified is so amazing because now we have a real tool, a very powerful tool, right? It isn't, we're not sitting there meditation, we're not saying we're just doing biofeedback, though biofeedback has its place. We do use biofeedback to some extent. Neurofeedback, another exciting science, where actually your mind can regulate your brain, and that was unheard of. We thought the mind is something the brain does, but now that using your mind can actually change the way your brain functions. So there's another way that maybe we know you can engage some of the frontal, but the fact is that there's some regulating reflex is mind-boggling. And I challenge anybody to come in. We want people to come in. We want people to test it because we actually have, you had mentioned the science, we have instrumentation that measures the changes, measure the pulse, measure the oxygen, measure the heart rate. The autonomic nervous system is easily measurable. And if you really change it, you can see it. You're going to see the blood pressure go down. Now, blood pressure is like right up there as one of our number one problems. But blood pressure, if it isn't some major organic disease like kidney or something, you can count on it that it's an autonomic dysfunction and overstimulation of sympathetic. Now, you can change that. Ooh,
even if it's hereditary, they talk about, I get it because I have hereditary factors. How are you going to change them hereditary factors?
So like Jim says, certain things like that, that's a big thing in medicine that people have so many hearsay. And in fact, the major meta-analysis say, like Ioannidis and Dr. David Edley, that 90% of biomedical research is wrong. And like Jim's saying there is no genetic factor for hypertension. It's never been found, never been identified. But in his mind, your mind, that's the belief system, right? So there isn't one, right? Just like they thought there was a genetic relationship for depression, First they thought they had isolate double recessive, turned out to be absolutely not true. And the whole thing about depression, where the biggest shock I think of in modern medicine, that the fact that in the studies now, especially the ones that were done at the University of Pennsylvania, and with the Emperor's new drug, Irving Kirsch, when they went back and they actually petitioned the FDA to turn over their studies, and it's pretty much what we realize is that antidepressants in mild to moderate isn't really working from the pill. And you're like, what? I took that pill and I felt so much better, but so does the placebo. So we're realizing really big stuff, that the actual positive benefit, the thing when you take it that makes you feel better, isn't necessarily coming from the pill, that is actually coming from something in yourself. Wow, that's a big shocker, and it ripples through all over. It's going to take a long time for people to get that, but that's also showing just how powerful we are. And what is that in us that generates that? Now that effect is across the board for pain or knee surgery, arthroscopic surgery for osteoarthritis. I mean, the fake surgery worked just as well as the real surgery, or sham surgery. So there's something very powerful going on in us. Do we really understand it? Can we just easily dismiss it as a placebo? No. There's so much more going on, and that if we take people inside to understand that, it gives them a real chance to change their life. Now, there's many people in end stages diseases and chronic diseases that we need the current system, but there's millions and millions. In fact, I believe at this current moment, if we can get enough people looking at things in this way, we can tip the very nature of medicine in this country and healthcare. Because I think we can end pain, as we know, which is the number one complaint. We can end anxiety, which is, you're talking 40 to 60 million Americans and all its different components, whether it's obsessive compulsive or phobias or fears or general anxiety, even post-traumatic stress, and the DMS-5 is considered to be a anxiety disorder. But God, just think about digestive disorders, sleep disorders. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Learning disorders, oh my goodness, it's so big that it's just mind-boggling. And it's hard because, you often hear people say, oh, this is the greatest, and this is the newest, and all these superfluous things they say. And I actually feel bad. I've had to try to stay humble. I've tried not to say anything about it in a certain way because I didn't want to seem too boastful. But it really, something really, really amazing has happened, and we need people to come on board, take a look at it, doubt me, challenge me, but have a personal experience. So we're always inviting different doctors and professionals and healthcare providers, and even people at the at other levels, that they can do what they can do. They can do what they can do to turn this around. Because if they learn these skills, yes, they're not easy. They are not easy to learn. As Jim will tell you, it took Jim a long time to learn, as you know, to get some of these skills. But what you can do, and what you're seeing now, instead of being a physical medicine body worker person, now he's seeing and helping so many cases that were considered to be somewhat incurable. Is that not true?
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.